Have you ever wondered why some prayers feel like whispers lost in the wind, while others feel like a door opening inside your chest? Ibn Arabi once wrote that the heart is a mirror. When it is clear, it reflects the one who speaks through every breath. And perhaps this is the secret we forget, that prayer was never meant to be a speech delivered into silence. It was always meant to be a conversation, alive, reciprocal, breathing. Tonight, let your heart slow down. Let your thoughts settle like dust returning to earth. And listen, for there is a hidden remembering happening within you. Somewhere inside, you know that Allah has never been distant. It is we who drift, not out of rebellion, but out of noise. Out of speed. Out of habit. You stand to pray, your lips move, your hands rise, yet something in you asks, why does it feel like I'm talking to God, but not with Him? And maybe this question is not a flaw in your faith, but the beginning of awakening. Ibn Arabi teaches that the divine is not only the one who hears you, He is the one who responds through every shift in your heart, every moment of ease, every knot of difficulty, every soft instinct guiding you toward truth. You speak, and He replies through life. Think of this. What if the heaviness you feel is not distance, but presence pressing gently against your awareness? What if the quiet moments you avoid are actually invitations? What if the longing in your chest is the real calling you back to the conversation you were always meant to have? In simpler words, the heart you carry is designed to hear God, not just speak to Him. So breathe. Return. And let this be your first step toward remembering the forgotten dialogue. Prayer begins not with words, but with a heart willing to listen. What you seek is already seeking you. Ibn Arabi tells us that every act of worship carries two movements, your voice rising to the heavens, and His message descending into your heart. Most of us know the first movement well, but we rarely recognize the second. We speak, but we do not wait. We ask, but we do not listen. And so the dialogue meant to shape our lives becomes a monologue echoed in habit. There is a paradox at the center of divine communication, one that confuses the mind but nourishes the soul. The quieter you become, the clearer the response becomes. Not quieter in sound, quieter in self. Quieter in expectation. Quieter in the stories you repeat about who you are and what you deserve. Ibn Arabi says that the heart becomes a throne only when it becomes empty, empty of distraction, empty of fear, empty of the noise that drowns out the nearness of the real. And in that emptiness, something miraculous happens. Silence turns into speech, stillness turns into guidance, longing turns into intimacy. This is the paradox. What feels like losing yourself is actually finding the one who has been holding you all along. You may wonder, what does this really mean for me? So here is the bridge. When Ibn Arabi speaks of veils, he means those moments when you cannot see the wisdom behind what life brings. The veil is not outside you, it is inside you. It is the rush, the fear, the tightness, the impatience that keeps you from sensing the divine whisper resting beneath every change. And so, the path is not to force your voice louder, but to soften your heart deeper. Not to talk more, but to be more present when you speak. Not to chase answers, but to let answers find you when you finally become still. The heart that slows down begins to hear what was always there. In divine communication, presence is the true language. Stay with me for a moment. Because what Ibn Arabi revealed about prayer may change the way you bow, breathe, and speak to Allah for the rest of your life. There is a turning point in every seeker's journey. A moment when prayer stops feeling like an obligation you perform, and begins to feel like a place you return to. A place where the one who created you is waiting, not to be informed, but to be remembered. You have felt it before, haven't you? That sudden softness in your chest during sujud. That brief flicker of warmth in the darkness of night prayer. That moment when a verse lands so precisely that it feels like it was written just for you. And you wonder. How does God speak back? Is it through signs? Through feelings. Through life's timing. Through the way your heart shifts without warning. Ibn Arabi answers with a truth as subtle as fragrance. The divine speaks in the language your soul can understand. For some, he speaks through peace. For others, through restlessness. Through blocked paths. Through opened doors. Through a tear you didn't know you were holding. Through a strength you didn't know you had. Think of it like this. Every prayer you offer is a seed. Every change in your heart after that is his response. And so I invite you. Gently, quietly, with the respect of one soul speaking to another. Stay with me until the end. Because the shift we are about to explore is not small. It is the difference between praying out of duty and praying out of intimacy. Between speaking into silence and realizing the silence was answering you all along. There is more to prayer than words, there is the response unfolding inside you. And once you recognize it, your entire relationship with Allah begins to change. Imagine this. It is late at night. The world is quiet, wrapped in a softness only darkness can carry. A single candle burns in the corner of a small room, its flame trembling gently, like a heart unsure if it's being seen. In the center of the room sits a lone worshipper. Their hands are raised, but their thoughts are scattered. Their lips move, but their heart feels heavy, distant, dim. They whisper a prayer they have whispered 100 times before. And for a moment, they wonder if Allah hears them. If their words matter. If the door of mercy is open, or if they are standing outside it. Then something simple happens. The candle flickers. Not dramatically. Not with force. Just a soft, almost invisible shift. A brief tremble of light dancing against the wall. But in that tiny movement, the worshipper's heart stirs. As if the flicker is speaking. As if the silence itself has turned its head toward them. As if something inside whispers, I am here. I have always been here. No sound. No sign carved into the sky. Just a moment of stillness turning into presence. Think of it like this. The candle didn't answer the prayer. The moment did. The shift in the room mirrored the shift inside the heart. And in that small, fragile instant, the worshipper realized something profound. Allah had been responding not through the world outside them, but through the awakening within them. Because divine communication often arrives like that. Not as thunder, but as warmth. Not as a miracle, but as clarity. Not as an external reply, but as a softening in the chest. In simpler words. Sometimes, the smallest change in your heart is God saying, I heard you. Guidance rarely enters with noise. It enters like a flicker of light reminding you that you were never praying alone. From here, let us go deeper into the place where real prayer begins, the heart. Ibn Arabi says that the heart is not just an organ of feeling, it is the meeting point between the servant and the Lord. A doorway. A horizon. A quiet inner chamber where presence becomes possible. Most people think prayer starts when they raise their hands. But in truth, prayer begins the moment your heart wakes up. Picture your heart as a still pool of water. When it is calm, it reflects everything clearly, light, sky, truth. But when it is shaken by rushing thoughts, fears, guilt, or the noise of the world, its surface becomes turbulent, and the reflection disappears. This is why sometimes you speak to Allah but feel no closeness. Your words are sincere, but the water is shaking. Ibn Arabi teaches that presence is not something you create. It is something you remember. Because the divine is already near, nearer than your breath, nearer than the jugular vein, nearer than the thought you had before this one. Presence is simply clearing the surface so the reflection can return. And how do you clear it? By slowing down. By breathing with intention. By allowing each word of prayer to land gently. By speaking as if someone is truly listening, because he is. When your heart begins to soften, even a single Allahu Akbar becomes a doorway into stillness. Think of it like this. Presence is the soul's way of saying, I am here. I am listening. And that is all Allah asks of you. So when your heart trembles before prayer, pause. When you feel lost, breathe. When your thoughts run wild, gather them gently, the way you would calm a frightened child inside you. In simpler words, being present in prayer means allowing your heart to stand before God before your body does. Prayer transforms when your heart arrives. Because only a present heart can hear the divine reply. Now, let us step into the heart of the matter. Prayer as a living, breathing conversation. Not a ritual of words, but an exchange of presence, yours rising toward the heavens, and His mercy descending into your life. Ibn Arabi teaches that every act of remembrance is a mirror. When you say, Ya Allah, the divine name doesn't just leave your lips. It echoes back into your heart. It awakens something. It stirs the parts of you that have been waiting for years to feel held again. And yet, many of us pray mechanically. We recite, we bow, we rise. But our hearts remain untouched, unmoved, unawakened. It feels like we are speaking into the air. But listen gently to this truth. When prayer feels empty, it is not because Allah is silent. It is because we have forgotten how to listen. Imagine this. A valley between two mountains. You call out a single word, and the echo returns, not as an imitation, but as a conversation. The echo is shaped by the space, the wind, the openness of the valley. Your voice returns transformed. Prayer is like that. You speak, and the response returns through the landscape of your life. Sometimes the answer returns as peace. Sometimes as a closed door. Sometimes as a sudden clarity. Sometimes as a lesson wrapped in difficulty. Allah's reply may not sound like your voice. It may arrive as the shift inside you after you pray. This is why Ibn Arabi reminds us. When you remember Allah, it is Allah remembering Himself through you. Meaning, your prayer is already part of a dialogue you did not begin alone. So when your prayer feels dry, don't force more words. Slow down. Listen inwardly. Notice what rises after you speak. When your plans fall apart, pause. It might be the real redirecting you, not denying you. Prayer is not just what you say. It is what Allah awakens within you in return. Now, let us move into the gentlest part of this journey. The art of listening for the answer. Most people think prayer ends after Ameen. But Ibn Arabi teaches that this is where the real conversation begins. Because every supplication carries two moments. The moment you speak, and the moment life responds. And yet, many seekers become discouraged when they hear nothing in return. No sign. No shift. No sudden clarity. Just silence. But here is the paradox only the heart can understand. Silence is not the absence of an answer. Silence is the form of answer you were not taught to recognize. Think of the sky at dawn. Before the sun rises, the world is still. Nothing moves. Nothing speaks. But everything is preparing for light. Your heart is like that. Its silence often comes right before clarity. Right before understanding. Right before Allah opens a path you never considered. The Quran reminds us, in meaning, that Allah responds to the caller whenever they call upon Him. But His response is written in the language of your life. It arrives through timing, through change, through the slow unwinding of knots you didn't know how to untie. Imagine your prayer as a seed placed deep in the soil. You don't stare at the earth demanding it sprout. You water it. You trust it. You give it time to open in the darkness. When life grows quiet after you pray, it doesn't mean you were ignored. It means your seed has been planted, now the soil is doing its work. So when your heart feels still after prayer, don't panic. When you feel no immediate sign, don't doubt. When the answer seems delayed, stay gentle with yourself. When you feel unheard, pause and ask. What has changed in me since I prayed? Often, that is where the answer begins. Listening to Allah means noticing how life shifts around you. Because His replies arrive softly, like dawn entering without sound. From here, let us enter one of the deepest chambers of Ibn Arabi's wisdom. The surrender that turns prayer into trust, and trust into peace. You see, many people pray with hope. But hold on to fear. They ask for guidance. But cling to their own plans. They seek clarity. But resist the direction life begins to take. And Ibn Arabi tells us a truth that is both comforting and challenging. The answer to your prayer often begins with the part of you that resists it. This is the paradox of surrender. You want the door to open. But the real may guide you first to the door that must close. You want ease. But the first step may be letting go of what blocks the flow of ease. You want a sign. But the sign may come disguised as discomfort, redirection, or delay. Think of your life as a river. When the water flows freely, it carries you gently. But when you fight the current, even the smallest wave feels overwhelming. Surrender is not drowning. It is learning to float. Ibn Arabi teaches that divine will is not something that happens to you. It is something that unfolds through you. Every closed path, every sudden shift, every unexpected turn whispers. Trust me. I am guiding you, even when you do not understand. Sometimes the answer to your du'a is not yes or no. But, grow first, then receive. So when life redirects you, pause. When a relationship ends, breathe. When an opportunity slips away, soften. Not because you shouldn't feel the ache. But because the ache itself may be part of the answer. When things don't go the way you hoped, ask. If Allah is guiding me through this, what might He be protecting me from, or preparing me for? Surrender doesn't mean giving up. It means trusting the one who knows the entire path. While you can only see the next step. And now, let us bring everything inward. Into the space where knowledge becomes experience. And experience becomes presence. Up to this point, we've spoken about listening, surrender, and the hidden dialogue of the heart. But how do you live this? How do you step into prayer as companionship? Not just ritual. Begin with the simplest act, breath. Ibn Arabi teaches that every breath you take is a reminder that you live within the divine mercy. So before you speak in prayer, place your hand on your chest and breathe slowly. Not to control the breath. But to remember who gives it. Then, before your first word, say quietly inside yourself. You are here, and I am here. This gentle acknowledgement opens the heart more than 1,000 rushed phrases. As you speak your du'a, imagine each word sinking into your chest like a stone dropped into still water. Let it ripple. Let it land. Let it soften you. Because the purpose of du'a is not to inform Allah, but to transform you. To make you aware of His nearness. To dissolve your tightness. To awaken the part of you that trusts even when it trembles. And when the prayer ends, don't rush. Sit for a moment. Breathe again. Let the silence speak. Let the answer rise, not in sound, but in the shift of your heart. In simpler words. Prayer becomes a conversation when you expect Allah to answer through what happens inside you. So when pain comes, breathe his name until the silence answers. When fear appears, whisper, Hasbi Allah, until the heart loosens. When confusion surrounds you, recite, Ya Fada, until a new path quietly opens. Try this once today. After your next prayer, remain seated for 30 seconds. Just breathe and listen. Not with your ears, but with your heart. You are not praying into emptiness. You are praying into presence. A presence that responds, guides, and holds you with every breath. And now, let us return to where we began. To the quiet question that opened this journey. Why do some prayers feel like whispers lost, and others feel like doors opening inside you? Perhaps now, the answer is clearer. Not because the words changed. But because you changed. Because your heart remembered something ancient. Something woven into your very being. You were never meant to talk to Allah. You were meant to talk with Him. The shift is subtle. Like dawn light slowly revealing the horizon. Like a mirror being wiped clean. Like an old forgotten room inside you filling with warmth. Ibn Arabi reminds us that the divine is not far. Not distant. Not silent. He is the nearness hidden beneath your breath. The stillness beneath your worries. The one who answers through the rhythm of your life long before you notice it. So let this realization settle gently in your chest. Every prayer you make leaves an imprint. Every tear you shed is counted. Every whisper of, Ya Rab, begins a dialogue written in the unseen. And when you stand to pray next time, stand differently. Stand as one who is being welcomed. As one who is being listened to. As one who is already known, already carried, already loved. Prayer is not a duty, it is a meeting. A return. A homecoming of the soul. And so I leave you with this blessing. May your heart soften enough to hear Him. May your prayers slow down enough to feel Him. May your silence deepen enough to recognize His replies. And may peace find you in the very places you once feared were empty. You walk this path with us. A circle of remembrance, seekers of nearness, students of divine intimacy. May every step bring you closer to the one you have been speaking to all along. And finally, these are only reflections. May I be mistaken. And may truth find you exactly where you are. Let this final breath fade into stillness.